How Antonio and Roger made over $500,000 their first year wholesaling real estate. What is up, guys? Zach in here. Welcome to the Bags to Riches podcast. And I have Roger and Antonio here, and they are going to share exactly how they made over $500,000 their first year wholesaling and how you can do the same exact thing. So, Roger, Antonio, what's up, guys?
What's going on?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, man. So, I think Roger kept showing me some of his checks in his story, and I kind of thought about it. I'm like, man, that's really similar how I got started wholesaling real estate. And it was kind of funny that, like, talking to them before, right? Like, your story is very similar to how I kind of got started in wholesaling. And it's very niche specific, but it's pretty cool. So I don't know who wants to go first, but like, what's your story getting into wholesaling real estate?
Yeah, I'll start us off. So it was actually, we were in the locker room when we were both at school at OU, and I heard Antonio, like, from around the corner talk about, like, yeah, he was like knocking on someone's door, trying to make him an offer, and then just hearing all these horrible stories of him getting like yelled at and stuff. And before that, I had maybe listened to a few like rough podcasts about wholesaling. And so then Antonio and I started talking about that. He was trying to do, he was basically knocking on all the pre-foreclosure stores, having a terrible time. And I kind of knew what he's trying to do. And so we just started talking, and, we figured out, we found your channel, and you really were preaching cold calling. So we started cold calling. Antonio and I would take shifts in between practices to cold call, just a single line dialer. And then we would be texting like in the evening. And it took us probably about 6 months to get our first deal. And we were really bad at it. But then after the first deal, we could afford to hire a VA, extend on the dialer. But really for those first 6 months, it was just sending back and forth your content, because we were, when you're cold calling, it's really hard to tell if you're getting anywhere. But then all your videos kept preaching like the numbers it takes to get a deal. And so anytime one of us would be like stressing, like, man, is this really going to work? We just cite like, well, Zach says you got to do this many calls, and we've only done this many. And so we'd keep ripping it, or we'd get an appointment. We'd go on it all excited, and then it failed. It's like, well, it probably takes about 5 appointments. And so we just kept listening to the numbers and just would keep referencing back to your stuff until we started to get traction.
Okay. So, all right. So I guess Antonio started first, and then you kind of worked with him together, and then 6 months to get your first deal. So,
yeah,
I mean, that 6 months is rough. I mean, first and foremost, that absolutely sucks. So,
yeah,
Antonio, kind of walk me through that whole journey from how you kind of learned what wholesaling was, that 6 months working with him, and then ultimately up to that first deal.
Yeah. So the first 6 months was really rough. Me and Alex's partnership and the way we work is amazing, because I'm very good at one thing and he's also very good at another thing, and our weaknesses and strengths are different. But I'd be calling mostly, and I'm just on the dialer all day. Or at first, we didn't even have a dialer. We were just typing in numbers on our phone, and I'm like, this is taking hours and hours to get through 50 people. And it was really, really frustrating. But, I was like, let's just keep it going. Let's keep doing it.
A big constraint was our time too, because we were both in classes in wrestling. So I think the reason it took so long because we were treating it like a side hustle for a while. And like we couldn't put in the hours, but it started to work better. And we actually called on we knew some like retired lady just sitting in a retirement home. She picked up cold calling for us actually before we hired a VA, and she helped us get our first deal because we realized we don't have enough time to be cold calling. So that was actually a big change. Was okay, we could pay to say, sweet Joanne, and people love answering to a sweet old lady. And so that actually helped us, and then that is what shortened the time to get our first deals. Whenever we had someone consistently cold calling every day, then it only took us, 3 weeks to get that deal right at the end.
After our first deal, me and Alex, we cleared about $540 something each. And we were like, that $540, it feels better than, $100,000 check. That first one. And then once that first one hit, we're like, dude, we got it. Let's keep it rolling. Yeah. And, but the huge thing was like your content. And when we followed you and followed your steps, looking at the numbers, making sure everything was right, kind of setting it up in order, that's kind of what made it take off. And we just kept doing it at a full speed.
Dude, I love it, man. So, okay. So going back here, right, why I think your story is so similar to mine was first, right, you guys are wrestlers, but you're D1 wrestlers, a whole different level. But basically, like, I was struggling too, right? Like it sucked for me, right? I was doing college classes in high school, wrestling, and then you got strength and conditioning after, and dude, you're exhausted, man.
Yeah.
You're exhausted. And then you're going around the whole country doing tournaments, and it's like you're traveling everywhere. Definitely worse than me, but like, dude, you had every excuse not to do it, right? And I'm not gonna say, wrestling's better than anything else, but like football players, like it's exhausting. Like it's just exhausting being a student athlete, but like doing that and wholesaling on the side, man, it's I give you guys the props there, but the fact you didn't give up is absolutely massive. And so I guess my question is, you're starting out your cold calling. Okay. So I guess that first deal was from that lady you hired to start calling, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What list was it?
It was a water shutoff list.
Okay. In Oklahoma, right?
Yeah.
The state of Oklahoma. Okay, cool. And so you're wholesaling locally, kind of in your area. I mean, I think you got really lucky because if you went to Penn State, that would have been terrible.
Yeah.
College Station, that's a bad area for wholesaling. So, I mean, I think all the stars kind of aligned, which is awesome. And so kind of walk me through. All right. Lady calls the water shut off. I'm guessing she's saying she's looking to sell.
Yeah.
How does that work for you? Do you guys run out in the appointment together? How did that go?
So that one, actually, I think Antonio had to be somewhere for it. And so I drove out to it myself, contract in hand, because she's older, didn't want to do anything over email. Met her at the property. It was a really rough property. I met her, took the pictures and videos of the property, walked around it. She, talked probably for like 30 minutes after the fact, just standing in the yard. She eventually signed it. The biggest thing was like going into it, I wasn't really like talking very, even really about getting her to sign or the sale, just kind of asking her a lot about like, where she's from, what her family does. Like you talked about, like some of your older content, you used to show like what you talk about in an appointment, walking through a deal. And so it was a lot of that. And then just, politely getting your photos and, listening to what they have to say. And a lot of these folks, distressed sellers, are just excited to have someone to talk to. And so, the more you lean into it, the more you lean into that,
Your relationship with them.
Yeah. And she signed, and then, we found the buyer in a Facebook group about 2 weeks later, and then closed the deal in about 3 weeks after that.
Dude.
But it was only a $2,000 check.
Hey.
Tiny deal, but and it maybe covered our expenses of getting everything set up for the first few months and paying our older lady. But yeah, that was the first deal.
Dude, how did you find the buyer?
We found a Facebook group. Any so-and-so city investment group, and then I searched the keyword cash buyer, and I found someone who was posting a lot of like, I buy deals, I'm looking for deals. So I DM'd him and a few other people, and there's probably a few like people we went through that were like brokers or realtors trying to help us. Then when we locked in on someone who's legit, the rest of it was really easy. Like an actual cash buyer, not someone who's having to get lending, made all the difference because we closed as soon as the title work was done.
Dude, awesome. And then how long later till you guys got arrested for wholesaling in Oklahoma?
Well, we didn't get arrested at one point, but we did get sued on a deal.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Our first deal ever that we were potentially buying.
One of our first deals we were trying to buy, and we bought it from someone with the exact same name and
birthday.
We closed on it. We bought it for like $10,000, and then we all of a sudden were getting a letter from a lawyer because it was like a fraudulent title, etc. But then after that, we were like, screw buying. We went back to wholesaling for a while. But that was our first time trying to buy a deal. We basically bought from someone who didn't own the property, and then after that, we're like, let's just stick to wholesaling.
Do you use a title company?
Yeah, we used a title company.
What's the point of a title company?
Yeah, we had.
You got protected though, right? You didn't like.
We got our money back, but we tried to fight it for a little bit.
Oh man, dude,
yeah.
Same name and birthday. I mean, they had to be a fake name. That had to be a fake driver's license or something, then, right?
Yeah, but that was 1 in a million chance. But after that, we're sticking to wholesale. We're not buying for a little bit, but that was the only. But other wholesaling wise, we've never gotten in trouble. That's not a problem here.
I'll be honest with you, probably because you're in a college town and everyone has a fake ID. It's probably easy to just get one, I know back in the day, everyone at UF used to like these ID God or whatever they used to go, and they used to get the fake IDs. I bet there's like dealers in college. You know this.
Yeah.
There's like guys that deal, and they probably did one of those things. So
Yeah,
that's insane. I mean,
It's nuts.
that's a 5-year jail sentence. So I've never personally encountered that because like, okay, but like going back to it, right? Everyone says this in Oklahoma that you are going to be arrested, straight to jail, death penalty. And so I want to get your opinion, right? I do a lot of deals in Oklahoma. So is it illegal? Is it not? Please let everyone know.
No, it's not illegal. It's 100% legal. You can do pretty much whatever you want. People just get angry at you because, say, you're cold calling or mailing, whatever type of marketing you're doing. They get angry that you're super consistent with it. So they call you up screaming at you saying, I'm going to get you arrested. It happens to us every week.
That's everywhere. But
Yeah.
specifically, they have a law in Oklahoma, and the way I taught it back in 3 or 4 years ago, I still haven't found one person getting in trouble for it, is you just don't publicly market it. So
yes.
You're not listing the property,
Yeah.
Zillow for sale, I own this house like a realtor. You're not doing that, right?
Exactly.
I mean, from what I've seen, and my lawyers in Oklahoma say the same thing. It's like if you just call the buyer up, say, hey, you want to buy a deal? Yes. You're not publicly marketing it, but whatever. You know what? They're lost, man. This is why Oklahoma is so amazing because everyone thinks it's illegal. This is why Pennsylvania is amazing market, Eastern PA because of that. But I guess my other question here is the cool part, very similar to my story, is you guys were really, really young getting started, right? How old were you guys when you closed your first deal?
19.
A year ago, I guess, but
yeah, 19. I'm like a little bit older than 20. I was 20. He was 19.
So did you have any issues getting started with kind of your age getting started here, talking to sellers?
Honestly, not too much because when I was cold calling and I was speaking with so many sellers, they actually liked it. They were like, "Oh, you're a young kid. You're trying to make money," and then just getting that relationship with them, they enjoyed that. And just talking to older folks and listening to what they're saying, they appreciated it rather than someone just hanging up or being super fast with them.
Exactly. It's all in the head, right?
Like, yeah.
So is it Alex or Roger? Because he's calling you Alex.
His name's Alex, but our A&A, we go by our,
Okay. I like it. So what do you Roger or Alex?
You can keep calling me Roger.
All right, Roger, whatever. How nervous were you on your first appointment?
I was very nervous because it wasn't just as going on an appointment. It was going to a rough part of town, and I think no one talks about it. But I think it's so funny. Some of these like wholesalers, especially like when young kids go into it, they've never been to a rough part of town, and like the deals they're going after are going to be probably in the rough part of town or a beat up house. They've never seen a house that's like fire damaged or had like
squatters.
Yeah, so I was like, oh boy, where are we going? And then I pulled up to man, this is getting a pretty rough part of town. So I was a little nervous about that. But then honestly, like once you meet the seller, and you start talking and like just focusing on listening what they said, being interested in what they have to say, rather than educating them necessarily, like the nerves go away if you just stay present. But leading up to it, it's terrifying because it's also like, should I be doing this? Am I doing this right? Like, what am I doing? But that's all part of it, just part of getting the reps.
There you go. And obviously, I think a lot of beginners can like this too, but like you don't need to be an expert, right? Talking to these sellers or be like a house renovation expert. They don't care about it. They just care about this problem.
That's the craziest part too that I've noticed. Like you literally just need to know how to talk to somebody. It's selling a house is like selling any other thing, or buying a house. It's like anything. It's just a relationship and knowing how to speak to somebody.
Exactly. So so obviously let's keep going, right? So you do your first deal, right? And then obviously things got a little crazy. How did things scale out after that first deal with you guys?
The multi-line dialer, and then Antonio, your reps.
Yeah. The multi-line dialer was a game changer. I would be sitting at the house before practice from like 10 to 12 and just getting so many reps. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is a game changer. I'm going to do this in every market. I'm going to be the one cold calling. And we ended up getting more deals from there. And it was the multi-line dialer that was the biggest.
Oh, for context, after the lady who was calling for us, we stopped using her when we went into the summer, and we ended up going back to cold calling ourselves, or really just Antonio. But it was with a multi-line dialer, because in the summertime we had a much more time, and so going into it, it was just it was an older video you had. It was like, if you cold call for 5 hours a day, you will make 6 figures wholesaling. So we're like, all right, like we believe it. And so Antonio would just always get 5 hours in a day. And then I was more so the back end, just trying to figure out, you know, like what's all right, what do we do after we have enough, you know, close the next deal? Like what's the upgrade for cold calling? And then it was just like every deal, there was like huge jump. So after we got locked up, basically it was like about $20,000 the first 2 weeks using the multi-line dialer. And when SAC closed, is when we started hiring VAs like crazy. You know, and once we started doing that, it was like we were getting, you know, 3 leads every day. And then it was an offer a day, like you said, and a lot of your earlier stuff. And I know you say that now, but then it was Antonio was making an offer every single day. And we were just trying to lock up as much stuff as possible. And it was like when we focused more so just on how many sellers can we speak to a day, that's when it just exponentially started to take off. And then it was, what do we need to do to speak to more sellers? Got to make more cold calls. How do we make more cold calls? More VAs, more lines. And then we just kept trying to increase how many people Antonio spoke to a day, because he was always the closer. And then, you know, went from 20,000 in 1 month, and then it jumped again. Like we had our first, then we closed like $38,000 in 1 month. And then every single time we closed these deals, we just made a huge gain in how many sellers we were speaking to every day. And yeah, and then we eventually got into mailing, and then mailing, we just kept increasing and went from there.
Dude, this is awesome, man. So, I mean, this is all pretty quick, man, right? I mean, this is all running pretty crazy. So
Yeah.
kind of going in your operations now, right? I mean, you're doing really well, right? How many deals are you getting about a month now?
Oh,
We do an average of between 10 and 15.
Jesus.
We're in our podio.
And so I'm guessing the deals are a little lower than probably Oklahoma, right?
I mean,
our average is about $10,000 profit.
Dude, that's amazing.
And I will say there was a period when, you know, we thought we wanted to be real estate investors, and we stopped wholesaling as much, because, you know, you make all this money wholesaling, and you think the next thing to do is to start buying. And so there were some times when we made that pivot. So our wholesale income went down, and it's a lot harder to make money buying properties than wholesaling. And so it was like about 4 to 6 months where we were trying to buy more, buying more deals.
We did.
And it sucked. Like our cash got burnt up, and you know, we learned the hard way that you know, real estate's expensive to own, and it's not just passive income. And so since that, you know, we did buy up a good amount of properties. We're happy we did that in the long run. But as soon as we decided to stop buying and going back to wholesaling, that's when it started exploding again. And we're hitting the average about 10 deals a month with so much less overhead.
Dude, I do not romanticize flipping houses. You know this. You guys have always noticed that, right? I've never romanticized it, because it just takes away from literally everything. Like, it takes away from everything, and everyone thinks it's the same thing, right? It is not. And it is time intensive, and one's a cash making machine and one's just a time sucking machine. Now, you're also not in the right market for it, as you probably know. Now, you guys are young enough to not know this, but like 2022, 2023, like, sure, go crazy. Because flipping a house works good when you can sell the house in 2 weeks on the market. This is not it right now, man. And yeah, it's not romanticized at all. But obviously, I am big on like, hey, you guys are making a lot of money. You should definitely invest the money, right? Maybe buy rentals and stuff like that. That's way easier than flipping the dang house.
That's what we did. We didn't do any flips. We focused on long-term rentals, and we bought up a lot of houses, and all of our cash was just going to the rehabs, and
we weren't reinvesting in the wholesaling. And we were like, man, I really miss wholesaling right now, because, you know, you have tenants calling you up, etc., because we were self-managing them at the time, and we would just be calling each other like, man, I want to just focus more on wholesaling, and just I mean, we're still wholesaling our deals, because, you know, we hired out enough VAs. It was running basically without us. But it was just so much stress of owning properties that we just real quickly put all our efforts getting back to wholesaling 100%. And that's what, you know, when we first started going from the calling to mailing, the next big jump was after we pulled back from buying and just focused 100% on wholesale. It was almost like we were like grateful for wholesale again. So we started spending on the marketing and growth from there. And that was when we really, really made the biggest jump, was when we came back, got our senses back and stopped buying rental.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah. There we go. Okay. So I guess on this end, right? So kind of like 10 to 15 deals, right? If I have like a pie chart of where you're getting these deals from, like where are the sources from these deals? Like mail, calling, texting, like how are you kind of doing it?
Alex?
So pull that up. Yeah. So we have our number one ROI is calling. So it doesn't do the most volume, but as far as dollar in, dollar out is calling.
What's the ROI on that?
4.97, so 5x. So we put a dollar, we get 5. So calling, it's about a 5x. Mailing, we're at right today 3.6x. But mailing gets us the most volume, so it gets us the most number of deals, but the ROI is the lowest. And then texting, really great. We get about 6.5x for texting, and we don't text blasting like isn't allowed anymore. So we have someone who manually texts like our really niche list. So niche list texting works fantastic, but volume, it's not our number one source of deals, but ROI is great. Yeah. And then we do SEO, and that works great for us, but you'll only get maybe 2 SEO leads a week. They convert really well, but they're not going to be the same volume. But for sure, calling and mailing, you have the most control of your deal flow. Then all the other ones is just, they convert well, but they're not going to be as consistent as other channels.
It's a better ROI?
What?
JVs. $0 spent, and someone sends you a deal and you split it 50-50, right? I mean, hey, that's why I'm pushing to get on here, right?
Yeah.
Just FYI, Roger and Antonio have a lot of good buyers, and you can literally work with them too. Like, I'll be honest, right? If you guys were brand new, and let's say there's another Antonio Roger duo in Oklahoma, you're brand new, you lock up a deal, like, what do I do? You could probably JV with them, and you'll learn so much with them too, right? And so I'm big on people sending you guys deals because you are legit and you have buyers. And if you screw somebody, you'll never get a JV deal the rest of your life. And I don't think you guys do that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so okay, you're running all. I love seeing that, right? 5, 6x. I mean, same thing, man. Like you guys are like little mini me's. Direct mail sucks on the cost part, but like it's so they just inbound, call, appointment, done, right?
It hits.
And I'm very surprised at those numbers. They seem lower than my in-person, but they're pretty on point with the virtual. And so kind of thing for Antonio, right, man? So you're in Long Island, and you're closing these virtually, right?
Yep.
So walk me through that process, because it's obviously different than in person. How are you kind of going through the whole process, right? Like what's your closing line? Walking the seller, getting pictures. How does all that stuff work?
Yeah. So we have people boots on the ground in the area that we wholesale in, and that the area that we invest in.
Friends, like,
excuse me,
like who? Like, are they friends? You found them on Facebook?
Project manager. Because we have our rental portfolio, so when we were rehabbing stuff, we picked them up. Now there are boots, and that's important. Yeah,
he ain't gonna steal your deal.
Yeah, exactly. It's very important. So it's someone that's on our payroll, on our team that we can trust, and we can send them out to any deal, even if it's a potential deal. Like if it's a lead that we think, hey, this could be a deal, it could be not. They'll go, they'll take pictures, they'll get us a scope of work. They'll pretty much get a quote of how much it's going to cost to renovate the property, which is very nice.
Buyers love that. Yeah, buyers love that.
And for new buyers as well. When a new buyer, is looking at a deal, they're like, how much am I going to have to put into this? That's their number one worry. So it's pretty nice to have. But as far as closing a deal, I say different things every time. It's never the same thing. It's pretty much based off of the person's situation and just gaining that relationship, kind of knowing what to say, gauging the next steps of what to say based off of their reaction towards me. So another, obviously you probably know as well, but I'm paying cash, I'm covering the closing costs, I'm covering the fees. I can close in 14 to 21 days based off of title work. Oklahoma is an abstract state, which is weird, but that takes a little bit of time as well. So those things and the convenience of being at their service. And a lot of other times whenever they're dealing with another person, another wholesaler or agent, they're so complicated to work with. And if you're just at their service and if you follow up consistently, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get the deal.
So when you give the offer, right? So do you just basically like just spit out a price? Do you get them to say the price? And do you just say, hey, like, I'm going to send you an e-sign? Like, how do you deal with it?
Yeah. So when I'm speaking to them, I always try to get them to tell me a number that they're interested in selling it at.
Love it.
And I'll never say that number first unless I have to. But say, for instance, I do have to tell them, hey, I'll give you $40,000 for the property. I know it's probably a little bit lower than what you're wanting for it, but the reason for my offer is because when I'm going to leverage my money out, I can only pull out 60% of it when I go to refinance. I just tell them certain terms in real estate that
You're not wrong. Not lying.
Exactly. Yeah, that they're not too familiar with. And they start to think about it and they're like, wow, yeah, like, this sounds right. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And they sort of lean towards my answer. And if they're at 50K, I tell them 40 with a really good reason. Tell them I'll cover closing costs and the fees. They'll be like, hey, listen, I'll go with you. Let's get this done next week.
There we go.
Yeah.
I like it, man.
Yeah.
And you're obviously saying it, e-sign, you're getting all done, then boots to the ground, going there, find the buyer. So how are you guys finding your cash buyers now?
Cash buyers now. Alex, you can chime in here.
We actually just hired a cash buyer VA. We never had one before. We just would, pool cash buyer lists, texting, calling, and then a lot on Facebook. And actually going to Antonio just got us a fantastic buyer that basically by going to a tax sale.
Amazing. Yeah.
And like nobody could get this guy because I mean, I'm sure like if some of these really big buyers that do volume, they don't want to speak to just anybody, and they're kind of they have their gatekeeper, whoever like you got to go through to get to them. But Antonio, like he said, I mean, you can tell the story. The guy was rejecting everybody. Antonio just started kind of shooting with him and just kind of joking around. And we got him recently. He's been our best buyer just from going to a tax sale and being personable. And like Antonio closed that guy, and he's been huge. And then the rest of our buyers, just contractors as well. If we see people like when we're driving around our market, we see them doing work, being like, hey, who are you doing work for? And then to give us their number. And that's helped a ton. And then Facebook. Yeah.
Dude, I love it, man. I mean, dude, I know these big, like I older guys, like, they're buying like 30 deals a month. They're like whales, and they buy them. And the hardest part sometimes is they'll buy them in different corporations, and then the tax mailing address is different. And it's like, you can't find these guys. They're not on Facebook, right? And you just got to find them. And I love auctions, tax sales, all this stuff, man. It's tough to find, but when you find I call them whales. They're like, hey, dude, I love it, man. So go ahead.
A lot of times with the whales too, as you say, it's a relationship. So it's like you treat them right on one deal and then they trust you. They're not going to hassle you on price too much. And, you get a relationship with them. And that's a few of our guys that we work closely with that, we sent them one price. They're like, deal, let's go. And you don't even, really have to think twice about it if they're going to close or not. So.
Yeah, some will even buy like sight unseen because they trust us so much, and they're like, hey, like every single deal, I bought from you, like on the back end, they've done great. So eventually they trust you so much that they'll, buy with like, a drive-by, and they're set.
Awesome.
Yeah. And how do you guys price this, right? So I'm kind of curious in your market, right? So obviously there's two types you got to do, right? So obviously you can't like burn a buyer. Like you could burn the guy and have it a stupid price. He's not going to make money. He's never going to talk to you again. So how are you figuring out how much to sell the deal for?
Antonio.
So I'll look at it and I'll try to get it as low as possible so that obviously we can make our biggest fee, but also I want to keep our buyers happy. So I'm like, if they can rent it out and make anywhere from, let's say 10 to 15%.
Beautiful.
I'm going to say that's a win on their end. Right. And there's been some deals where we've taken not a loss, but we could have made, let's say 30,000 where we've only made, 20, made them super, super happy. And then, we'll make it back on the next deal and the next deal and the next deal. So if they make 10 to 15%, I'll take that all day long.
Dude, it's a business. And no one looks at wholesaling like a business. Like, it's like, yeah, I always use a pizza shop. It's like, you got to pay a little more for better ingredients, but they're just going to keep coming to you. Mm-hmm. And the thing I always tell everyone, which nobody pretends isn't going to have it happen, but like if real estate, God forbid, goes down 50%, who is that buyer going to go with? Yeah. You or this new wholesaler off the block that they've never bought a deal for, right? And then it keeps your family fed for just in case something, God forbid, happens, right? Rick's not here, but like Rick went through this entire thing in 2008, and he had a family, right? And he always did right by the buyers. So you know that. So how do you figure out how much to offer the seller?
How much to offer the seller?
Yeah.
The market, just knowing what area you're in.
Okay, so do you comp like do you just try to lowball like crazy? Like how generally are you figuring that out? Obviously, you know the market really well.
Yeah. I hate looking at Zillow because Zillow is like such a bad representation of what a house is actually worth. I've just gotten such a good feel of what my buyers are buying at, and I know I need to get it at this price, or else they're strictly just not going to buy it.
Yeah.
Zillow is good. I mean, you can persuade someone's actions if you tell them, Zillow's prices and what's selling and not selling. But really, for me, on my offers is just knowing my seller, and then knowing my market and knowing those numbers.
And I have to jump in there. Like, it helps a lot too. Once you've done a few deals, like on a certain part of town, I just know, like hearing your conversations with sellers sometimes, Antonio, it's like you can start dropping like, well, I just bought this street, this address for this much. And like, you can talk about the area so you sound informed. Like, it's a feel thing just through reps. Like you've done enough deals in your market. You can hear a street and know an address and already have a ballpark number in your head, just because you've done so many deals there. So in the beginning, we were probably a lot more calculated with like, comps and ARV and all that. But after enough reps, it's almost like instinct. You already know, like, oh, that's on this block, it's going to sell for this much.
Also, another pretty good rule of thumb that we would use in order, if we were buying or selling it to someone based off our offer, if the house is occupied, tenant occupied, we would do the rent. So if it's rented out for $1,000 a month, times it by 12, it's $12,000 a year. Divide that by the purchase price of, let's say, $50,000. What's your number there? That's going to be, let's say, 22%, 23%. That's a very high number. Then that's where you can make your margin on what to sell it for.
Beautiful, man. I love it, man. So when you guys, again, I know this is a little harder for you, but like when you guys left Oklahoma, right? Because you probably graduated, right? It's like, how did you kind of transition the company virtually? Because that probably had to be tough.
A lot of it was, we still go back and visit, but it was, doing the stuff that's like, even like small stuff, like joining the country club around there, meeting like community banks in the area, and then knowing a lot of your contractors and just knowing a lot of people who are like in the, doing remodels, knowing them. So having like a lot of relationships with boots on the ground outside of the business. And then we were lucky enough that we were able to hire internally, where we had a property manager and a project manager to act on our behalf. And then for like appointments, we were just knowing who our buyers are that always have boots. So for a while, we were leveraging other people's boots. So if our buyer, we knew they had, before we had a project manager, we knew certain buyers had project managers that walked their deals. And so it was knowing who we, because then they're paying their guy to go out, not us, and just having that. But then, it's not just the who's walking the deal, but also every step of the deal, kind of having that network in the market already. It pays dividends, because then also in conversations with sellers or buyers, like name dropping, then everyone starts to recognize like each other. And so even when we're not there, our names still get said enough that almost feels like we have a presence around there.
Oh yeah. And Tony, do you ever use I know people in Oklahoma love the Sooners, right? Do you ever use your like OU athlete card? Does that help?
It's crazy actually. So this big landlord down in the place we invest at and wholesale, he was a wrestler. He's actually an insane wrestler, 3-time All-American.
Oh wow.
He knew our old coach, Mike Leitner. They're friends. So, we told him, we're like, hey, we're wrestlers, man. And he had a bunch of other offers from who to sell the house to, but he went with us because of that relationship of being an athlete.
Dude, it's so funny, man. The one thing in wrestling is you can tell if someone's a wrestler just by looking at them, usually cauliflower or something like that. Yeah. It's kind of funny. Like, I know it's really stupid, but like once you can like add that connection, it's like done, right? Yeah. I got a little cauliflower right here. So everyone notices. But I guess that little celebrity status does help. I mean, there's this dude in Gainesville. He was an athlete, a football player, and he uses that card. He just milks that thing. And it's so hard to beat him, because you got an old lady who grew up in Gainesville who loves the Gators. It's like, I play football. It's like great. That little celebrity status does help. So if you are an athlete in like a little area, people love that stuff.
It does help.
But I like that. So you're doing Oklahoma. You're also doing Alabama. So what's going on there? Is that just a really profitable market for you?
Well, I'm like right by it in Tallahassee, and you know, we just honestly was in talking to ChatGPT because we were like, you know, we were telling it what we like and kind of the conditions, and then ChatGPT was like, try out these areas, and then, you know, we kept telling it more. We actually told it our data on our market, like everything, like every you know point we could have, and like our KPIs and everything. It's like, where do you think would perform similar? And then it was, you know, Alabama, the capital of Alabama, Montgomery, is our first focus. But like we like Birmingham. And you know, we like the Bible Belt. You know, that's like we want to keep on picking up states like that. But
yeah, the first 2 weeks when we launched, we closed our first deal with very minimal marketing.
3 leads. It took 3 leads to get our first deal in Alabama.
And what do you do? Calling?
Yeah, right now it's just calling. We're just doing calling, and we're working on setting up our SEO and everything like that. But we're just starting with one channel because the cheapest one with the highest ROI, and then we're just, you know, picking it up from there. Kind of as we can make sure we have everything, our CRM running right, the lead flow right, not letting any leads get, you know, fall through the system before we just throw a bunch of money at our marketing. So we're kind of doing it in stages, just duplicating what we did in our first market.
Wow. And you guys keep talking about SEO. Are you getting deals from SEO?
We love SEO. Yeah. It's like you don't get as many deals, but they convert.
I don't talk about it too much. So talk to me about SEO. What is the actual like hard cost of this?
So
you're getting on it.
We outsourced the setup for it, which was expensive, and I don't recommend most.
How much was it?
We paid basically for a full year plus setting up our website to be optimized $30,000.
We made it back in the first 3 weeks.
First 3 weeks.
Okay.
First 3 weeks, our money back. So it's like, and it helps a lot too, because then our SMA, we funnel people to there.
Yeah.
And so we were a little nervous about it, but it's also like with new wholesalers becoming more common, we saw it as a way to separate ourselves. Like, because you have to invest in the SEO, you have to be, you know, posting and building, you know, the backlinks, etc. And so it was a little bit of a gamble, but you know, it converted. The first 3 weeks, we got 2 deals that paid for it, and then since then,
that's worth it.
Yeah. And the spreads are ridiculous. Like,
yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
What are they doing on it? I just wanted, like, what do they do for 30 grand?
Yeah, I think it was. We're not renewing with them. We're doing it ourselves. But it was the setup, backlinking, and the guy you probably know. I don't know if I should say his name out, but you probably know him. But he
tell me after.
Yeah, he shoots up your ranking because he has a big following already, and so he'll like push a bunch.
Wait, whoa! Is this a guy in Oklahoma?
No.
Okay, there's this SEO guy in Oklahoma.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, but no, I think I personally like I don't feel like we got scammed or anything. But
no, you made your money back.
Yeah, but I think we mostly paid for him to send a bunch of traffic to shoot it up to, you know, ranking pretty quickly. And then from then it's just kind of mostly on us to keep on posting and, you know, have a seller facing audience.
Yeah, that's what I'm really hard. Like, I'm actually like taking in all this SEO info because I truly believe ChatGPT SEO is like the next big thing. I'm trying to figure it out. I know Bing is something to do with it. Yeah. I'm trying really, like, I think that's my next big thing, and I'm publicly telling everyone this because, dude, I think it's the next one. But I got you tell me when you figure it out, you let me know. But man, that's awesome, dude. And you're doing it in Alabama too.
We're just now starting Alabama. You know, it's not ranked yet or anything, but we're not paying him to do it. We're doing it ourselves there. We're just not getting it rolling in Alabama.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in that. That's interesting. So you guys are ramping up like crazy. So I guess my only thought is you're just ramping up the SEO. You're doing more calling. You're doing more texting. With the texting, right? Obviously, you're not using a blaster. Do you just have a guy in a dark room text? Like, how do you do this?
We have a VA that just texts. And actually, I asked him the other day, I was like, hey, do you have any ideas on how you could be using AI to do a better job or do more volume? And so I gave him a little homework assignment to basically replace himself or enhance himself, because we want to get texting going in Alabama. And I just know there's a lot of new stuff with AI texting. And so in the meantime, we're just doing manually with one person.
Are you using smartphone?
Yes.
Interesting. And what's the cost of smartphone per text?
I think it's like a penny. What is it?
There's no opt-out language to that, I bet, right?
There is opt-out language. Yeah.
Okay.
But it converts well for us. I just, I thought it was like A2, like we're A2P registered and all that stuff.
Yeah. I will be, I'll talk to you after. I'm gonna get you on the setup. I'll help you out. But yeah, you need to, texting's really good, especially that new law that just the case law. I don't know if you saw it, where you're a lot more protected, man. But definitely it's smart. I mean, obviously, I think you guys know what you're doing, right? If anyone's watching this, like, make sure you separate your rentals from your actual wholesaling operations.
Absolutely. You need to do that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so yeah, it's very rare to find two people who are not related, like being good business partners, and this is absolutely awesome. And I think you guys have a good vision in the future. And so the one thing I'm trying to help you guys in is just get more wholesale deals sent to you, right? It's like SEO, except they come to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set Roger up, but check Roger up on Instagram, DM him. If you have a deal in Oklahoma or Montgomery, Alabama, and send it to him here. This is his IG, and yeah, hit him up on Instagram, and he'll DM you a link to get some JV deals. My goal: you make $100 grand from this podcast. That's my. I'm speaking into existence. Okay, $100 grand from this podcast, and don't be shy on the communities, man. Let everyone know kind of your stuff and help them out, but don't make sure they don't steal your buyers. But guys, this is awesome, man. So Roger, Antonio, this has been amazing. So any parting thoughts or words or advice you could tell the audience before we head out here? Put your handle right there so everyone can send you some deals.
Yeah, just keep on grinding. Don't stop or get discouraged. It takes one deal, and then that's all it takes, and then you just keep it rolling.
No shortcuts. It's reps above all. Because we look back at some deals, like a lot of like our growth was that we're doing more volume, but also just we got better at wholesaling, period. And so there's no shortcuts to it. A lot of it's just reps. Get your reps in, and one day at a time, 1% better every day, and just stay consistent. Stick to something for 1 year. Stick to it for 1 year, and then you can say whether or not wholesaling works.
Okay, and then Antonio's right there on his Instagram too.
Yep.
So hit him up there, and we'll see you guys probably next year. Let's see how everything's going. So, all right, Roger, Antonio, amazing story. I love to see it. I see a lot of my stuff, my young version into you guys, and you're going to just absolutely crush it. So,
thank you.
All right, guys, really appreciate it. Make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.